Welcome back to Tales and Fails Miniatures. Today we'll be crafting the 5e Sleet Storm. This is a sorcerer, druid, and wizard spell. It is a level 3 conjuration. Basically is what it is it's a 20-foot high cylinder and 40-foot radius. And any creature within that zone has to make a dexterity saving throw or fall prone. If you are also concentrating on a spell, you have to make a constitution saving throw or lose concentration on that spell as well. So pretty cool. Also, everything inside of there is difficult terrain. So thought I would build this out. Had the idea for it in my head for a while. So I wanted to show you guys how to do it. Let's get into it. We start here with a couple of metal rings that I picked up from my local hobby store and just trying to figure out exactly what height I want to use before sanding them down to make sure that any type of material that I use sticks to it. After that, I grabbed some of this leftover plastic from the front of miniature boxes and cut that down into 4-inch tall, which equals our 20-foot tall cylinder. And then I cut them, basically trying to get as many as I can that are as long as possible to fill out the whole circle. And I used this paper cutter to make sure that my lines were perfectly straight, before then holding it up to the actual rings and then gluing them in place. Once I had a few in place on opposite sides, this just made it a little bit easier. I could cut a bunch more of these same style of strips and then also glue them all the way around the ring until it's completely filled out. I really make sure that I want to take my time here, fill out all of the gaps, anything that you can see that would be a weak point to make sure it's as sturdy as possible. And then once I fill in all the gaps between the pieces of plastic, I went back and just put extra beads all the way down where the plastic meets the metal ring. And again, I just went through each individual piece, made sure they were held on there as well as possible, and filled in any additional gaps with more pieces of plastic until it was one solid piece all the way around. And for most of this, I didn't really have a plan. I was just kind of going with what I felt would work right. Because sometimes in projects, you're not going to have a full plan. You just have to kind of send it. And that's what I was doing here, is just trying to get to the next step in a sense. And here you can see that it's now completely filled in all the way around. Now that it's filled in all the way around with the plastic itself, I can use that as kind of just a layer for the hot glue to go onto. And I just start taking very thin lines of hot glue to kind of make it look like rain or sleet's coming down. And I go across the entire circle, making sure to try not to leave any gaps so that it actually looks like a non-see-through storm. And this did take a lot of hot glue and a lot of time. I mean, you just have to really take your time, not try to clump up too much hot glue, or else it just doesn't quite look right. And I did that here and there, and sometimes that's going to happen. You just have to keep going, and hopefully you can fix it later, which basically I ended up just taking the tip of the hot glue gun and rubbing it on those areas where I did put it on a little too thick, and that just helps thin it out, which makes it look a lot better. The next step, since I didn't quite like the way it looked just coming straight down, I thought that the hot glue needed a little bit of an angle to it, to where it looked like the wind was blowing it aggressively to make it really feel like a heavy storm that you're getting caught in. And just like the previous step, I just took my time and went all the way around the entire piece until every area was filled in. And I'm right now just doing this on the front, because I wanted to see how it looked before I started to mess with the back of it too much. But I really did end up liking the way that it looked with the angled compared to just the straight down. But once that was finished, the back kind of looked a little plain and didn't quite look right with it just being the plastic itself. So I went back and just added a very thin layer of the angled hot glue, which helped make it look a little bit less weird, and obviously made it look like it's not just plastic sitting there. And you can see that it's a much thinner layer than the front, because you really didn't need too much. And once I was finished building it up with all of the hot glue, I decided that I kind of wanted to give it a little bit of color, so I took that blue and white from Army Painter and just dry brushed it on the outside to give it a little bit more color, because currently it looked a little flat, and this added a lot. But once I was finished doing the entire dry brush, I thought it needed to be a little bit more see-through, just where it didn't look so opaque. And so once that was all finished being painted, I decided to take some boiling water and put it in a pan and then run the piece through that, which helps slow down the drying process of the hot glue itself, making it a little bit more see-through. And you really just want to take your time with this. Don't burn yourself, and just do it very slowly so that you don't touch the bottom of the pan, or the hot glue will start sticking to the bottom of the pan, which I did a few times, but luckily you can't tell on the piece itself. But once we were done here, I could still see the gold and silver ring a little bit through there, so I decided to go with some grays, and just right where the ring is around the top of it, just add a little bit of gray to where it looks like maybe some storm clouds or a little bit heavier of the storm itself. And I really like the way that this covered it up and made it look a lot nicer. But once I was done with that stage, I thought that it needed something a little bit more, so I used some watered down Eileen's tacky glue and just added these little glitter effects and the snow effect all across the outside and inside of the project, and I think that just gave it a really good storm/sleet look. And you really don't want to add too much of this, just enough to where it's noticeable. And I used a lot less glitter than I did the white snow, because afterwards I also went back and with some really watered down white paint, I put it on a brush, used my airbrush to then splatter it on, because I didn't want all the snow pieces to be the same size. I wanted some bigger ones, some smaller ones. That way it gives it more variant before letting it dry, and that's the final bit of this project. Alright, so not that hard of a build, definitely takes a little bit of time and a lot of hot glue, but I really enjoyed this. I definitely had to go back and tweak some stuff here and there to make it look the way I wanted, and it didn't turn out perfect, but overall I really do enjoy this. I think it's going to be cool to throw it on a board when somebody does cast Sleet Storm, so I've been very excited about this. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did crafting it. If you did, please do like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.